started?
Sure, let's get started. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everyone. I'm Chris Lewis. I direct the Office of Nationally Competitive Awards at Ohio University. And I'm really excited to be here today on this call to help share information about the wonderful English Teaching Flagship Award. Um, in my 5 years in this role at Ohio University, I've known 4 students and alumni who have had really positive experiences with Fulbright Taiwan, truly life-changing experiences that have broadened their worldviews, helped them better understand the diversity of our world, cross-cultural communication, building community. So I'm really happy to hopefully make even more connections between Ohio University students and alumni and this wonderful program. So I am going to now introduce Dr. Randall Nadeau and Ms. Kelly Chang. Dr. Nadeau is the Executive Director of Fulbright Taiwan, and Ms. Chang is the Director of ELPT programs.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to meet you and to join you this evening. The Foundation for Scholarly Exchange, or FSE, administers Fulbright Awards in Taiwan. And we also have a number of our own scholarships. And the combination of the two makes us one of the 5th largest Fulbright commissions in the world. Now, the Fulbright Award is a process by which you apply often through your university first, and then to the Institute for International Education, IIE, in the United States, and through the process of review and approval of applications, ultimately approved by a board in Washington, D.C. And one of the Fulbright Awards, among several, is the ETA Award, English Teaching Assistant Award. And there are something like 60 countries, 80 countries that have ETAs, and we are one of those. In Taiwan, there's a significant demand for ETAs and for English teachers as Taiwan aspires to be a bilingual nation by 2030. And therefore, we need more than can be provided by the ETAs. So we started our own program that's complementary to the ETA program 2 or 3 years ago, and that is the ETF program. And we're going to tell you more about that this evening and how you can apply. Basically, the application for the ETF goes directly to us, and we administer those awards. We make the selection and so on. So as I say, these are complementary. You should by all means apply to both if you have an interest, especially if you have an interest in coming to Taiwan. And Taiwan's a great place. The ETAs and ETFs love it here. They have a great experience, often extending their stay even beyond 1 year. So we're going to tell you more about the program this evening, but on behalf of FSE, welcome to apply and welcome to Taiwan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nadeau. And then I'll have a brief introduction to our ETF program. Josephine， 那我开始分享。有看到吗？ Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for joining. And me and my colleagues were on behalf of Fulbright Taiwan to introduce you a scholarship to teach English in Taiwan. And this is what we'll be going through today. And yes, as most of you might know, the Fulbright ETA grant, which is English Teaching Assistant, and we have been working on this program for 20 years, and this is our 20th anniversary. As the program grows, we would really like the outstanding ETAs to have the chance to extend their stay in Taiwan. So this is why we have this extension program called ETF, which is English Teaching Flagship. And this is founded by Taiwan's Ministry of Education, and they have a collaboration with us. And the duration is the same as the ETA grant, which is 11 months, starting from August 1st to June 30th. And renewal is possible through and the stipend includes a monthly benefits for your professional development or to learn Mandarin if you are interested in language learning and relevant education certificates. And we also provide a round trip flight tickets from between the US and Taiwan and a settling allowance to take care of all the logistics at the beginning of the grant period. And also, if you join our program, you'll have our health insurance, and we also provide a 1 month free housing in the first month you arrive. And as what you do as an ETF, it is really similar to ETA. It is 16 to 20 hours in class teaching per week. And then besides the regular in-class teaching, we have few responsibilities. First of all, we have a series of workshops on different topics to cover teaching techniques and on cultural diversities and how do you better survive in Taiwan in the first month you've arrived. So that for those who don't have teaching experience, you can have a better sense of how your working environment will be for the next year. And workshops. For the semester, we will have workshops on different topics you can attend. And you also have to hand in reports for us, and so that we can know how well you are adjusting to this new environment. And also, every grantees will have one advisor with solid background of TESOL or TEFL, and then they will observe your teaching at least once a year. And if you encounter any difficulties, you can always have a discussion with them. And from the 5th to 7th, we will hold events and you can participate and you can decide how much you would like to engage in. So you will be invited to engage more if you are an ETF. And as to community service, you will have to complete 8 hours of community service each semester. And then goes to the qualification. First of all, because we are a foundation, an American and Taiwanese bilateral foundation, so the applicants must be US citizen. And as to teaching experience, we have 5 requirements and you have to meet one of them. The first one and the second one are for our current grantees. And the third one is we would like you to have at least 1 year of English teaching experience or a master's degree in TOEFL or English teaching related majors. And the fifth one, although we have some affiliated universities in the US, but we would like to open this grant to all the universities. So graduate students or graduates from Ohio universities are also welcome to apply for this grant. And we also have a ETF Plus grant, which is for experienced teacher. And so you can apply for ETF Plus if you hold a state-issued teaching license. And please note that a substitute teaching license will not be eligible for this grant. And the second one, the capital B one, is for those who have teaching experience in Taiwan. And how do you apply? First of all, you have to write a statement of purpose, which is no longer than 2 pages, and an English CV, and 1 to 2 recommendation letters. And then we'll need you to have a copy of your passport. It is okay if you do not have a passport now. You can always write to us if you have any problems when you're applying for this. And you can tell us that, oh, you don't have a passport now, but you have one by then. So you can always submit your passport later, or any documents. And you just have to write to us first. And you also have to submit your certificates if you're applying for ETF Plus. And this is how the timeline looks like. The application is now open and the deadline is March 8th, 2024. And we'll start reviewing your application. And then if you are qualified, we'll send out interview invitations during April, and you will know if you won the award or not by May. And if you scan the QR code, you will get to our application system. And here are some FAQs, and we also have a small QR code below. You can scan. If you have any questions, you can fill in the form and we'll email you back. Okay, and let's go to the FAQs. Is the ETF program open to individuals with English-related majors outside the education department? Yes. We suggest you state clearly in your documents to show your motivations and why you're interested in this program. And the second one, can applicants apply for FSE grant if they have already applied for other Fulbright grants in the same year? Sure, as Dr. Nadal just mentioned, you're very welcome to apply both if you're interested to stay in Taiwan, but you'll have to choose one if you're selected both. And as one of our requirements said, mentioned, the requirement is selected from the affiliated universities. And we have collaborations with universities, including Teachers College and the California system, but graduates from other universities, such as Ohio universities, are also eligible to apply for this grant. And the fourth one is about 1 year of English teaching experience. Although the formal classroom experience is preferable, but both volunteering and tutoring counts. So we suggest you state clearly how this experience are related to formal classroom teaching, and we will review your documents and assess your motivation to join this program. And you're always welcome to write email to us or visit our website. We have all the details on our websites. And also we have this Google form to collect questions. Okay, I think I will now pass the time to our ETF representatives, Alexis, and then after she share her experience in Taiwan as an ETA and ETF, we'll come back to the QS session.
Okay.
Hi.
Yuting.
Hi, Dr. Oh, sorry. Dr. Nadal, do you, oh, you're muted
Yes,
now.
thank you. Sorry, Alexis, before you start, I just thank you so much, Yuting, for that really helpful introduction to the program. I just wanted to emphasize a couple of things. One is that when the program first began, which I guess is 3 years ago now, it was an extension ETA program. And a certain proportion, half or more of ETFs are ETAs who are staying on another year. But that is no longer the requirement. As I said, that was how it started. But since then, it's expanded significantly. So a number of our ETFs were not ETAs in the past, either in Taiwan or elsewhere. And the second thing to emphasize here is that when we look at the qualifications for the award, some of these could be better stated as preferences. So an education degree, formal teaching experience, these would be perhaps, would be preferences. But we shouldn't describe them as requirements, really. You do not need to have an education degree nor an English major to apply for this award. So I just wanted to clarify those 2 points. And otherwise, again, thanks, Yuting, for that really clear introduction to the program. Okay, thanks. Oh, and I have to duck out because I'm still at home, but I'm heading to the office, and so I may disappear in the next part. Okay, thank you, Alexis. Your turn.
All right, thank you, Dr. Nadeau. So, hi everyone, my name is Alexis Carlin. I graduated from Ohio University in 2022, and I was a history major in the Honors Tutorial College, and I had a certificate in Law, Justice, and Culture and Asian Studies, and I was an ETA in Fulbright, Taiwan last year, and now I'm an ETF. So I'm one of the people that Yuting and Dr. Nadeau mentioned that started in the ETA program and decided to renew my grant for another year. So the reason I decided that I wanted to apply for a program in Taiwan is because I had been studying Mandarin for a long time since I was in middle school. So I wanted the opportunity to go to Taiwan and really immerse myself in a language learning environment to keep up with my language skills. I also had the chance to study abroad when I was an undergrad, and I wanted to try living abroad in another country and really challenge myself to grow personally and professionally. So since I had been to Wales and Europe during my undergrad experience, I wanted to try Asia, and that led me towards Taiwan. I'm also adopted. I was adopted from China in 2000, and I never had the chance to connect with Asian culture or any type of heritage or roots in that sense. So I thought Taiwan would be a good opportunity to go learn more about East Asian culture from like personal experience and also a little bit of Chinese culture because of the intertwining of Chinese and Taiwanese history, which has been a very cool experience. And the last reason I decided I wanted to go to Taiwan and participate in this ETA and ETF program is because I had had experience working with ESL learners from different countries through the Conversation Hour program at Ohio University. And I also had the experience of working with students in different capacities. So I used to be a learning community leader, and I was a cardio dance teacher, and I was a dance teacher back home in Columbus. So I really enjoyed interacting with students, and I wanted to try doing that in an ESL way and maybe in a more formal classroom experience as well. So that is what brought me to Taiwan and led me to apply for the ETA program. And now I want to tell you more about what happened in my first year and what led me to stay for a second year and why I love this program so much and why I love living in Taiwan. So I am based in Taipei. I've been in Taipei since last year and this year, and I've gotten to stay at the same school, which has been really awesome. I work at Wenchang Elementary School, and I work with students grade 1 through 6. Last year, I co-taught with local English teachers who are Taiwanese in courses on life skills, math games, design thinking, art, and this year I've added reading for thinking. So as you can see, they're not necessarily English grammar classes, but they are content classes taught in English. So not only am I really teaching cool subjects, but I'm trying to figure out a way to do it for English as a second language learner and working with those Taiwanese teachers to figure out what's the best way to deliver instructions to make this interesting enough for young learners, and also make sure we are doing it in English that is understandable for these students, but also so they can retain this information and continue to grow in their English language learning. So I absolutely loved teaching the students. They are fantastic. Even with the language barrier, they really warm up to you after seeing you every day, and they become so cheerful. I feel like a celebrity when I walk through the school. They're always like, Teacher Alexis, Teacher Alexis. And I taught them how to high five. So I high five every day at school, all the kids throughout the day. It's awesome. And some kids get more comfortable and they start talking to you over time. And they get a little nervous because they think their English isn't that good. But the more comfortable they get with you, the more you realize they have a very high level of English language ability that they're not showing you because they're shy. But the less shy they get and the more you get to learn about their personality, the more you're able to kind of get their abilities to show in the classroom too. So it was a great experience teaching. And then outside of working in the classroom at my school, I'm involved in a couple other things. So at my school, I lead a monthly assembly on moral values. So I get to do like dances or play games and do competitions once a month on a Monday morning, which really boosts their spirits to be at school during the week. I also decorate an English board. So in one of our international hallways, I will put up different games that students can play. And that is where I kind of talk more about like my American culture. So I do like Halloween games, I'll do winter games. We have a spring festival at my school, so we'll do a lot of spring festivals from around the world. And I also, in my first year, participated in a student rollerblading club because I had just learned how to rollerblade back home and I wanted to continue doing it here. And I wanted to find a way to interact with the students not outside the classroom. So I started going to their rollerblading practice every week, and it was so funny. Like all the students would get so excited to see me and really got to know me better. They also would get really mad at me if I didn't wear a helmet. They'd be like, Teacher Alexis, that's not safe. You can't skate today. I'd be like, okay, sorry. So it's really great, like them really trying to interact with me. And then the last thing I do at my school is I get to continue teaching cardio dance, which is really awesome. I teach it to the teachers at my school, not the students. So this has been a way to continue that experience that I started at Ohio University and bring it to Taiwan and share my love of dance, and also get to interact with the teachers in an informal way. Because in my dance class, there's no pressure for them to talk to me. They just need to follow along. And dance is a great way to interact with people without language because you just need to watch and follow. And so over time, I've gotten people who come regularly, like every week, and it's been really great because then they feel more comfortable trying to talk to me a little bit more. They'll talk to me before class starts, after class starts, and now like if we see each other in the hallway, they will come talk to me. And we always have the topic of dance to talk about if there's really nothing else to talk about. So they'll be like, oh, I like your class. I'm like, thank you so much. And so that's great. And then during the fall and spring semesters, I get to kind of do some holiday classes, which I think are really fun. So Halloween is my favorite holiday. And so the way I have started to kind of build that over the last 2 years is last year I taught the same Halloween lesson to every grade because it was my first year. And I also only expected to be there for 1 year. And then after I fell in love with teaching and fell in love living in Taiwan, I came back to the school and I realized, oh no, I can't teach this lesson again because every student in the school knows it. So what I did this year is I actually put a lot more effort into building 6 different lessons, one for each grade. So as the students move up through every grade, there's a new lesson and it builds off of each other. And I'm doing the same thing for winter festivals and the same thing for spring festival. So my experience in my school was extremely positive. Even when there are cultural differences with my co-teachers or staff members, what I really like about working here is that the LETs, the local English teachers, really want to learn from their ETAs and ETFs, and they're really willing to sit down and like talk through these cultural differences and figure out better ways of co-teaching. And it might take a little extra work when you're lesson planning to like communicate clearly, but it has really helped me professionally learn how to communicate with people from different cultures and make sure we're on the same page and understand each other's teaching philosophies and figure out, okay, how are we going to find this middle ground for both of us and make this classroom a positive environment for our students. So I liked teaching way more than I expected. And when they started announcing the ETF program last year, I was like, I'm definitely going to apply. Like, this experience is so great. And now I'm going to talk a little bit more about life in Taiwan to see like why it is so awesome to stay here and what made me so interested in continue living here. So I live in Taipei, which is the capital of Taiwan. It is an extremely convenient city and extremely safe. So, fun fact about me, I absolutely hate driving. I am so afraid of it. I didn't get my license until I was 22. And after I passed my driver's test, I have not driven a car since. So living in Taipei is fantastic because they have buses, they have an MRT, which is a train. It's extremely fast. They have a U-bike, so you can rent bikes around the city and pick it up and drop it off. So it is so easy to get around. It's very fast. And as someone who is a foreigner, and even though I speak Chinese, sometimes I feel it's not that good, I still feel that it is extremely easy to navigate around. And Google Maps is always helpful. The food here is fantastic. You can try Taiwanese food, but you can also try Chinese food. I see a lot of Southeast Asian food, like in my neighborhood, the Vietnamese food, the Thai food, the Malaysian food is so good. The Indian food is great. So I've really been able to try food from around Asia without ever leaving my neighborhood, which I think is fantastic. Another reason that I like living here is because Taiwan is pretty safe. And as a single woman, when I walk around, even during the nighttime, I don't feel that I am in danger. Every country has its risks, and you should always be aware of dangers that might happen that are unexpected. But in general, I don't feel unsafe when I walk around. And that is really great as someone who wants to travel and wants to explore new places. And Dr. Nadeau has this joke that he shared last year at our conference that Taiwan is probably one of the only places in the world that you can forget your MacBook on the MRT and then go back and it's probably still there, or someone turned it in at Lost and Found. And that is 100% true. Like, I have seen my friends forget laptops in restaurants and it's still there, which I think is incredible because you don't find that in other countries. And then again, like I said, even with the language barrier in Taiwan, I have found that Taiwanese people are generally very positive and always willing to help. If you're struggling and you kind of come up and you say like, oh, sorry, like my Chinese isn't so good, and you use Google Translate, they will try to figure out like what you need and how to help you. And one experience for me is one time me and my friend were hiking and we couldn't really read the map that well, even though we had researched the trail, and we started kind of going the wrong way, and we run into this group of 40, 70-year-old Taiwanese people who are on this like giant hiking trip, and they like waved to us and we waved back, and they were like, where are you going? And we were like, actually, we don't know, we're kind of lost. And they were like, oh, come with us. And they just took us on their hiking trip, and we ended up hiking in the mountains all the way north of the city. And when we got to the exit of the trail, I was like, oh my gosh, this is one train stop away from my neighborhood. How did they do that? Like, they just brought me back home. This is fantastic. So living in Taiwan is fantastic. And even outside of Taipei, there are so many places to see in Taiwan. And they have the HSR and the TRA, which are very high-speed trains. And so it makes it really convenient to travel on the weekends or the holidays, and you can really learn more about the country because the North and the South are pretty different. The cities versus the rural areas are very different. If you travel on the East Coast, you get the opportunity to learn more about some indigenous history. And if you're willing to go to the outer islands like Jinmen, you can learn a lot more about the military history. So there's so much culture in Taiwan, even for such a small island. And I feel that even in my second year here, I haven't even finished going to all the places I wanted to go to. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to keep traveling and keep learning. Another thing I want to touch on is the language learning, because Yuting mentioned that you have like some money in your stipend that you can dedicate to that. So I know people who go to language centers and they're able to do learning, like language learning. There are also people who their roommates and them will sign up for language classes together. I do private tutoring with someone, and I actually met her through my roommates because they were doing a private class, and then my Chinese language ability was higher than them, so I started doing private tutoring, and she is fantastic. And if you end up applying for this program and come to Taiwan, please feel free to let me know, and I will send you the information to my language tutor. And I also take Chinese class with my second graders. I took it with my first graders last year because the Chinese in Taiwan is different from the Chinese in mainland China. So in mainland China, it's pinyin, and here they use Zhuyin, or like kind of, it looks kind of like an alphabet more so. And so when I got here, I didn't know Zhuyin, and I wanted to really learn it because that's another side of the language that I hadn't been exposed to. So I enrolled with my first graders. I was not very good, but they were fantastic classmates, and they really encouraged me, and they would help me on my homework, and they would check my test scores to make sure I was keeping up with the class. And if I didn't understand anything, they would turn and try their best to whisper in English what the meaning is if I looked confused. So there was some great language exchange happening there. And kind of another reason I decided to stay is because I wanted to move up to second grade with my students. And so I have done that this year. My speaking and my listening has improved a lot. Sometimes I don't feel it has, but then I will be walking the hallway and I will overhear Chinese and be like, oh, actually, I understood that whole conversation. Like, I have improved. And the teachers get excited, like, oh my gosh, you know so much now. This is so great. So that is kind of my life in Taiwan, and it's really fantastic. And there are a couple other things that Yuting mentioned. So there are service opportunities. So you do community service, which I think is a fantastic way to connect more with the people in Taiwan. And I did a number of community service projects last year. So I volunteered with an organization called SALT, and we did a giving tree event. So it was like a Secret Santa kind of thing where people would buy gifts for students who were in orphanages or hospitals, and then they were donated. So we helped organize that event. I also volunteered at the Taipei Public Library, and we did some events on American culture and dance. And I got to talk to adults about how dance influences American culture and how you can see the diversity of American culture through dance. And then we were able to have a discussion about what role does dance play in Taiwanese culture and how is that different from the US or similar. And then the last thing that I volunteered for last year was this program at the Dharma Drum Institute for Liberal Arts, and it is a Buddhist school. And so I just got to go up to the mountains for 10 hours that day and do yard work and talk to like retired Taiwanese people. And I got a free vegetarian lunch. And it was just a really cool experience to leave the city to do some volunteer work and like see the beautiful scenery of Taiwan. And now that I am an ETF this year and I know more about the community service and I have done those projects, I am actually in charge of the volunteering program that goes to the Buddhist school. And I'm the one who reaches out to the ETAs in Taipei and New Taipei and the ETFs and invite them to come on this service project with me. So it's very cool to see how my role has kind of evolved the longer I stay here, that I'm more integrated in the community and I can be more of a leader and an organizer and not just someone who's visiting for 1 year. And so that's another reason I wanted to stay, is I really wanted to kind of become more of a local in Taiwan and see how people live day to day. Another thing that Yuting mentioned was the workshops. So you get to meet with your cohort who does elementary or junior high. It's 2 hours professional development. It's really great. You meet TEFL advisors or formal English teacher from different experiences, and they will do seminars for you on co-teaching, adjusting to the culture, games and activities. And I think that these workshops are really designed to try and respond to the challenges that ETAs and ETFs are having. So one workshop that really resonated with me last year was the art of saying goodbye. And it was the last workshop. And we really talked about like, how do you tell younger students or middle school students that you might not come back next year, or you might be in a different school, or your time in Taiwan is done and it's time for you to move on? And I think this is a really sensitive topic that, you know, my school doesn't really know how to handle because all of their teachers work there full time. And for me, it wasn't sure if I would be there only for a year or come back. And so I think that was a really good way to talk about like what students might experience in terms of emotion when you tell this and how you can help them process it. So I really appreciate those workshops. And they also do a Fulbright mid-year conference where they gather all the grantees in Taiwan and you get to hear from different speakers. And this is really great because you can hear more about like where Taiwan fits within the world in terms of international politics. And you get to meet different people from different professions like journalists and scientists. And that's a really fantastic experience to kind of learn more about the country that is hosting you at the time. And ETAs and ETFs are also invited to apply to present. So this is a really great way to professionally develop more in terms of public speaking and networking, and also share what you've learned from your experience and learn from others from their different experiences in their schools. And so last year as an ETA, I had the opportunity to present my lesson that I had created because I was talking about how to integrate sustainable development goals in bilingual classes, because SDGs are a very big thing across the world right now in terms of creating a sustainable community to protect our earth and life on earth. And also it's a very big thing in Taiwan. Like they really want to learn how they can help their students become global citizens, but SDGs can be kind of an advanced topic, even for people whose first language is in English. So teaching it with students whose second language is English, I really had to get creative to kind of encourage students to be more interested about this topic. And so I learned how to use storybooks and games and a lot of experience-based learning to get them to be more interested in issues that are taking place around the world and issues of sustainable development. So when I presented that lesson, I got so much positive feedback and also some suggestions on how to improve. And I think that was another reason that really led me to want to do the ETF program, because I could develop even more as a professional educator and continue to improve my lessons and my teaching skills and learn from the people around me. So overall, the ETA experience was fantastic. And I'm so glad I'm also in the ETF program. I have learned a lot from my time in an ETA, but I still continue to learn in my ETF program. And I think the support that FSE, the Foundation for Scholarly Exchange, offers is really fantastic and really does give anyone the opportunity who wants to try living in Taiwan, who wants to try teaching English, a great experience. And I highly encourage anyone to apply. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, feel free to let Dr. Lewis know, and he has my contact information, and I'm happy to talk to anyone more about my experiences or more about the application. And as Yuting said, please feel free to reach out to FSC too if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Alexis. And we have now our program director online. Kelly, do you want to say something to our attendees today? Or Kelly, do you want to add on to the introduction?
Lee, are you going to say something? Or I can ask something about Alexis just mentioned that we have some support from FSE, Foundation for Scholarly Exchange. And I also want to mention that for your living in Taiwan and also teaching in Taiwan, we actually have our local coordinator to support you. So if you have any like accident or anything, if there's like a language barrier, like a language problem with your your community, our coordinator will try help you in your school, and also we'll have observations. So that's the time our advisor, the teaching advisor, can help you to discuss with your local teacher, your co-teachers, and also discuss with you how to make your class more engaging and how to help you to collaborate with the school. And we also have our mental health advisor or intercultural communication advisors. If you have any mental health problem, or you want to discuss something with someone in Taiwan, we have they are all licensed like a mental health like a specialist, and they can help you and they can discuss with you. So you don't need to worry about you're living in Taiwan and there'll be like a lonely or something. There'll be someone to help you for sure. And if you don't know how to teach, that's the reason why we don't really require you to have education background, because when you are in Taiwan, we have like intensive training for you. And if you have, because we know that it takes time for you to master the skill of teaching, but our advisor is the resources for you all the time. So you can check in with them, and they will also check in with you to see you have any, you need any support. So welcome to Taiwan.
Okay, thank you so much, Kevi. I would like now to open to questions. Do you have any questions you would like to ask?
I have a question, which you've already answered in some ways, but I think it's helpful to reiterate it, because a lot of the students I'm working with who are going to be interested in applying will have formal classroom experience as, say, a teaching assistant supporting with math education or science education, and maybe their language education experience is more volunteer or tutoring or somehow less formal. So they're still totally encouraged to apply.
Yes.
Awesome.
And it'll be great. They can also put them this experience in their like a statement, because then we can the committee member can see, oh, they have some experience in the classroom or some tutor experiences, and they have ideas what's going on in the in the teaching, and then they probably can use the experience in Taiwan, because that's also part of our goal in our program, because we hope that we can exchange our culture with Americans, and Americans can share their education in Taiwan, and probably like some teachers in Taiwan will use that ideas from the US in their classroom. So that'll be great if they can share something in their statement.
And what's the, I'm sorry, Gabby, go ahead.
It was also to I was going to ask about the same kind of question, because I coordinate the TEFL practicum in at Ohio University. So my students actually have 1 semester of teaching experience, but many of them are undergrads. So I was wondering if that would be an issue, or they actually do have to be master's students. So just wondering about that.
So I think our requirement is only BA degree. So if they finish their college and then they get a degree, they can apply. So I think the 4th year, if they finish their practicum, is the best timing for them to apply for our program.
Wonderful. Thank you. Sorry, Chris.
I was wondering about the age range of students that ETFs might end up working with, and the areas of Taiwan they might end up working in as well.
So I think we don't really limit the age, because I think we have some grantee in the past. They also finish their, for example, like a master degree, and they come to Taiwan. So some of them are kind of older, but they need to know that if you are kind of older, you are going to live with like a group of younger people, right? Because they just graduated from the university and they probably have more experiences in work and or like a teaching. So that's something they probably need to face. But I think their co-teacher will be pretty mature already. So they probably already teach for several years in Taiwan. So that's something that's someone they are going to work with. And for the sites they are going to be placed. So basically we have like 14 cities working with us around Taiwan. So we are not sure for now which site they are going to be placed, but basically they could be in the East Coast or West Coast or northern region or southern region. All of them could be possible.
Kevi, I also just want to add and clarify. So currently ETAs and ETFs can work with elementary students and junior high students, so middle school. So that's grades 1 all the way up to 9. So elementary school is 1 through 6 and junior high is 7 through 9. And I don't teach junior high, but I have friends who have taught it. And from what I hear, typically the ETAs and ETFs are more likely to interact with 7th and 8th graders than 9th graders because Taiwan has an examination system to move from elementary school to middle school up to high school. So usually by 9th grade, there's a lot more focus on making sure those students pass those exams to get into high school. So there's not as much flexibility for interacting with the ETAs and ETFs in the classroom, but they have found ways to interact with 9th graders through running after school clubs and trying to get those started at schools. And then for me as an elementary teacher, I have worked with all of the grades. It kind of depends on what your school needs. So there are some schools that are very big and they really want to build a strong foundation for English language learning. And there are ETFs who will work with only first graders and only second graders. For me, because my school is small, I get to work with all of the grades. So it also really depends on the size of your classroom and what kind of courses your school wants you to work on. So do they want you to focus on the English grammar, or maybe do they really want you to work on those content classes in English? And what I have found is if the grantees talk to their school about like, here's my experience in the past and here's what I'm pretty good at, then they can kind of try and cater it. So for example, I have one friend who is very athletic. And so they kind of put him in a lot of PE classes because that's more what he wanted to do and felt that he could kind of support students in that way. And he also started coaching the 4th grade basketball team. So the age range is pretty wide and it's pretty flexible depending on your school and where you end up.
Yeah, thank you, Alexis, for pointing it out. Because now, as like Dr. Ngo just mentioned, that we have like our bilingual policy. So some school they are actually working on this kind of bilingual initiative to work, especially for these like a P class or like we have like a life class, something like that, which are not the main subject in the school. So they will encourage our ETAs to help with those like courses. So that's something if you apply for this program, you can also discuss with the school in the future.
For non-traditional students, like if they were planning to bring family, like their children, do you have any like accommodations for them, like for the kids to go to school? Like can the kids go to the same school that the parents are teaching?
Okay, I think for now we don't really accommodating like a dependence. I'm sorry about that part because in our traditional program like we host ETAs who are just graduated from university. So normally they don't have dependents. So that's why we in our package we don't have that part for now. So I'm sorry about that.
That was actually my question too, because some of our master degree students, they tend to be older and have a work experience, and they're returning to school to get their master degree. And even if they have no children, will their living arrangement be accommodated? Because they might be bring their wife or husbands and their families. So yeah, that may be one thing to be considered.
I'm wondering about the language levels that applicants tend to have, because I've worked with applicants who have studied the Chinese language for some time and others who haven't. So what's the experience like maybe for ETFs who haven't studied the Chinese language in the past?
I think Alexis can also mention that part, but I will say that for our program, we don't really require you to have any Chinese ability because we have local coding to support. So, but we hope that they can come to Taiwan and learn some Mandarin back to the state. That's one thing that we expect them to do. But I will say that if you know some Chinese, it will really help you to teach in the classroom because I think most of the time the kids will like speaking Mandarin, and when they are chit chatting and you probably know what they are talking about, or when your co-teacher is talking to the kids, they probably use some Mandarin, and that's also some for some point that if you know their guidance and instructions, it will help you. It will be very helpful for you to teach in the classroom. So I'm not sure whether Alexis can share her experiences.
Yeah, Kevi, I can add on. Well, so I shared that I had studied Mandarin, so I kind of had an advantage coming here and living in a Mandarin speaking country. But I also met plenty of ETAs and ETFs who had come in with no prior experience studying Chinese or Mandarin at all. And for the most part, like everyone is fine. You obviously have that culture shock and that learning curve. But because you're living in this country like every day, you start to pick up on the words. Like I had a lot of friends who had never studied Chinese before. And at first they were like, oh my gosh, like I really don't understand anything. And then after a while, you kind of start to hear the same phrases over and over again. And in the classroom, you will hear your co-teachers use like, raise your hand, be quiet. And so those like classroom phrases, you kind of start to know like, oh, this must mean this because I'm seeing the reaction that my students are having. And so you start to pick up on it. And I think the students and Taiwanese people in general are very encouraging. Like if you say something and you say something wrong, they'll kind of look at you, but they will try their best to figure out what you're saying. And you know, as people, as grantees who are teaching English as a second language, there are skills we have like using your body language and your facial expression and pictures. And so I have found, even if I know some Chinese, but I don't really know what I'm trying to say, I will just Google pictures and I'd be like, this, where, and like in the store, and they're like, oh, okay, and they will lead you right to it. And in terms of like kind of navigating around, like for me in Taipei, and I've noticed in other cities that I've traveled to, Google Maps here and Apple Maps are great. You can Google where you want to go, and the apps will actually tell you like what bus you can get on and where the bus stop is and how many minutes until it's coming. So I think that the public transportation is integrated really well into kind of the maps that you can get on your phone. And the same for the restaurants. Like you can, for the most part, Google Translate a menu if you really don't understand. And I think that's also kind of the part of living in a foreign country, like try new things. So maybe you see that this is noodles and chicken, but you don't know what kind of chicken. So as long as you like chicken, you can just try it and see how it goes. But from what I have heard from other grantees, coming in not knowing Mandarin, there is a learning curve, but most people have adapted and they're able to figure it out. And again, like Kevi said, if you come here and you're still struggling, you can talk to coordinators who are bilingual, who can help you with those resources. You can talk to your advisor, you can talk to mental health services, and they are really willing to help. Like, I know when I got sick, I was like, I don't want to go to a doctor. I don't know how to like talk about things in Chinese about that stuff. And when I told my coordinator, she was like, oh, no problem. And she was able to find, like, they're able to find doctors who are bilingual and they can like call ahead and be like, oh, can you speak English? Like this person is going to be a patient and they can't speak Chinese. So I really think that there is a lot of support here in this program. So I would tell anyone who's considering applying, don't let the lack of previous experience learning Mandarin hold you back from applying, because Taiwan is a very accessible place.
Yeah, I think Alexis just mentioned the experience to go to a clinic or hospital. I would just want to add it on. the part that in Taiwan actually will help you to get the NHI insurance. So it's like a national insurance for everybody in Taiwan. So you will get the same benefit in Taiwan. So going to a doctor is very cheap. So that's why we always tell our grantee that when you feel you are a little bit sick, just go to the doctor. Don't just stay at home and rest, because they will just prescribe you some medicine, and you at least someone will give you some guidance, even though it's like, I mean, like, it's easy, and the clinics are everywhere, so you can just go. Yeah.
I think Gabriella just asked if we have a summer program. And Kevin, could you answer to that?
Yes. So for now, we don't have a summer program because during the summertime, it's the time for us to host all the grantees coming from the US in August. So in July, we were preparing for that. So we don't have summer program. But in the future, we probably have some short-term program for some internship, and also we probably have some like a practicum program for some university who like, which have some like a teaching programs, and they probably require their students to doing their practicum in the foreign country. So we can probably talk about them in the future to have a further collaboration.
Yeah, I wanted to second to Kevin's information about practicum. Actually, we still have some openings for upcoming January. It's a 6 months grant, but they need to have this TEFL background, like they are achieving their master degrees, or they already have their masters, etc. So please feel free to let us know if they are interested. Okay.
Thank you. That's great to know.
Do we still have any question to this program?
I have a clarification question. So you mentioned that March 8th is the deadline. Can you tell us what time it is as well? And if it's Taiwan time or Eastern time, just because I know there's that time difference between Taiwan and the US, and I want to make sure that everyone who wants to apply knows like when the last minute to apply is, so they don't miss that for a time difference.
Yes, it is Taiwan time, which is UTC +8 and GMT +8. So it might be 7th. Yeah, so if you check our application system, you'll see the exact time. Oh, it is, yeah, UTC +8, March 8th. Thank you, Chris. Okay. So if we don't have any further question, I think we can end it up here. Is anyone would like to add on anything?
Well, thank you, Yuting, for leading this discussion. And Chris, it was a pleasure to meet you. Alexis, thanks for your great presentation. And encourage your students to apply to the program, Chris.
We absolutely will. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us. I feel like I can go out and be a better ambassador for this program now. So I very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I think we will later send you the recording and also the link of the slide we present today, and also with all our information in the email.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Alexis.